Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Unexpected Productions presents to you a little bit of the story lives. I'm going to introduce your host for the night, Jay Hitt.
Hey, everybody. I'm going to introduce the co-host, Dre Anderson. So go ahead, take it away. Take it away, Dre.
Oh, man. You don't even want me to take it away. I'm just going to give you guys a little bit. We got some of the greatest voices that y'all ain't heard yet in a while coming back through to the mics, and it's gonna be fantastic. We are going to be interviewing a little improv group called Let's Chat, and we are also going to be interviewing the man who started improv in India. But first off, let me just say my name is Jay Hitt and this is Dre. We do a show here called the Duo Improv Showcase every Wednesday, normally, like right now, every Wednesday at 8:30. And as you know, most of the world has been closed down because of COVID-19, and so our theater is closed down, but we're still going to keep the art going. We're still hoping that people will tune in and people will still be engaged with the improv community. There's also a lot of other stuff going on in the world that we'll be talking about as well. But first off, I would like to bring out the first person that I. Oh, actually, is everybody? Can we see everybody? I don't even know. Can we see everybody? I don't know. Anyway, let's have everybody come out, and this is Let's Chat, the improv group, and Adam Dow. So we have Sid with Let's Chat. Hey,
Sid,
what up, Sid?
Hello.
And we have Archana. Hey, Archana. And last but not least of Let's Chat, we have Amit.
Hey,
Everyone.
Hey, Amit. And let's give a round of applause to Adam Dow.
Hello.
So first off, thank you for coming tonight. Thanks for being here. Let's start with Adam. Actually, now Adam, you may have to head out a little bit early, right? You had something going on.
Yeah. Sorry, I had some work I was catching up on.
Yeah. Okay. So Adam started an improv group, Improv Comedy Mumbai. Started improv in India, and how's it going? You were in India just recently, and you had.
I started teaching. I mean, let's be straight. I was first one of the main teachers to start teaching improv comedy there, and that was back in 2009, 2008 or 2009. And so it's a huge Bombay. It's where they have Bollywood. It's a huge entertainment hub. It's an amazing place. There's lots of film happening, culture and art, and just a really cool, vibrant place to go visit and see. And and I just they started having actually stand-up nights there, and then nobody was doing improv at all. And so I I actually got some recommendation letters from Randy and Troy Mink from Unexpected Productions. I taught at for a kids festival called Thespo, and it's a Prithvi Theater. And so that got some notoriety, and then it just kind of went from there, and we ended up having a group form, and it was really exciting because there was a lot of really talented people there, because all the people were already working in TV and film and theater that were like the students, and that was what they're doing as a job. So it was a lot of high quality people, and we got to go to some international festivals. We went to Amsterdam and Berlin, and then now I go, and predominantly when I'm there, I'm either teaching improv comedy theater or acting in some Bollywood films or doing some corporate training work. That's what I do.
Dope.
Wow, cool.
And I was just there in March, and I was teaching at a film school called Whistling Woods. And then COVID happened, and all my classes started getting canceled. And then there was talks of them kind of shutting the borders. And I didn't want to hang out in Bombay with no work and no money. And then also my family kind of needed me back home. So I came back right as the day before the borders closed and I couldn't come. So yeah, that's that. And now I'm back in Seattle.
Yeah, and you're hanging out with your folks.
Yeah, hanging out with the folks. Yeah,
That's awesome.
Yeah, and Adam, a lot of people don't realize Adam started at UP. He was just a youngster when he started. He's been doing improv a long time.
I think I was 17 years old.
Yeah, you started in high school.
Yeah,
with the Hogan Cup, right? No, and then you.
Yeah, Jeff Hogan was my first improv teacher.
Yeah, the Hogan Cup man. And also people don't realize you were actually the one who started the collective at UW.
Yeah, UW Improv.
Yep. And I know other people have taken credit for it, but you are the actual creator of it. You don't care. It
wouldn't be the first time someone takes credit for something.
And also Adam is a kung fu guy. Are you a master yet?
Yeah, I just got my instructor's title this year. Beginning of this year, March, like before I left, like February.
Bows.
Yeah.
It only took me like 18 years.
Easiest degree.
Yeah, I was in a kung fu film with Adam, Master of Vengeance. But anyway, and
that's another real talk for another day.
Yeah,
yeah, that's a whole another topic.
Do you know what Let's Chat the reference is?
Yeah, I do, but we'll have these guys explain it.
I love the title, Let's Chat.
Yeah, Let's Chat. And in case you're wondering, we often, when we introduce Let's Chat, we spell it CHAAT, and people may think that maybe I'm misspelling it, but no. Yeah. So whoever invented the name, why don't you? Which was it? Which one of you guys invented that name, or not invented it, but came up with it?
I think it was Sid.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and take credit for it.
Not the first time someone taking credit on this call.
Right. But I just remember, I think it was, all three of us were there. It was probably after duos.
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing, like, we were discussing names of what we should call this thing we do. And I just remember, as soon as I said, let's chat, and Archana was like, oh my God, that's awesome. And then Amit just had this expression of like, I sort of hate it, but it's also pretty good. So let's go with it. And I was like, yeah, that's what I need. That's the affirmation that I needed. So
and what did you think of it, Amit, when you were making that face?
I thought it was a little on the nose. It was a little too stereotypical in a way. So that's why I was like, do we really need to use like a Hindi word as a pun for this? But I've gotten used to it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, man, it's so good. Like, I would have never known. I still wouldn't have known until you like broke it down for me just now. So it's like, I would have thought you guys were just trying to chat. I didn't know that it was a Hindu word. So you put me on.
That is actually like the Hindi. It's a certain kind of street food that you get in many different parts of India, and it like kind of has you get different forms of it in like the north of India, south of India. So it's street food which we all eat. So it's kind of a pun on the word chat and chat. So.
It also makes me think of, what's that show, Coffee with Karan? So it's like having something to eat and then chat.
Karan is kind of like the Indian version of like Jimmy Fallon, or except way more.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd say that, but
yeah, not at all like Jimmy Fallon. I would say I'm trying to remember what's the British show I was thinking of, but yeah, no, it's like a chat session with just a couple of people, a couple of celebrities, and
it's pretty ridiculous.
It's a little over the top.
But, I don't want to associate with that.
Not being a part of that either.
Yeah. But chat, this is like a very Indian thing of like, we eat food and we talk. So like, even like street food. We eat chat and then we chat. So yeah, the pun works, Amit. It works.
Sure.
Chat is food.
I'm not
Street food.
I'm still here.
Yeah, street food.
I
Yep.
do like me some street food, so this is great. So every one of your performances, I could expect to get some authentic Indian cuisine. Then is what you're telling me. You guys just click it up right there.
I think so far we've delivered, right?
Yeah.
Every Black Ice performance, we just have fried chicken. It's fine. It's right there for everybody. Here, come on through.
I had another question for you is how when I guess I'll take each one of you individually on this one. We'll start with Amit. I'm guessing you're the oldest. You all look the same age. You all look really young. But when did you start your improv?
He's judging by hair. Whoever has the least amount must be the oldest. So Amit, you win.
Got it. Yeah. My improv journey actually started in Seattle itself. I was interested in improv a little bit around college timeframe. So I did my undergrad in Mumbai, and then I moved to the States for my grad school. This was almost 12 years ago. I'm coming up on 12 years now. So so I was interested in it a little bit in college, but there was no real avenues around it. I never gave it a second thought after like a couple of random like jam sessions or something. And then it actually when I moved to Seattle, one of my neighbors was coming down to take a class at UP or Jet City, one of the places I can't remember. And so I was asking her how was it, and she was like, "Oh, I loved it." So I was like, "Okay, I'll probably do it one of these years." So one of these days turned into years. So I think I finally started off probably like 5 or 6 years ago. Is when 5 years ago maybe is when I started off. And I took classes at Jet City, and then just continued jamming around in different parts of town and a couple of different groups, and then ended up at UP 2 years ago now. So it's been almost 2 years now. Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Does this year count though? Does it count?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a bit of about a year and a half, give or take.
Yeah, no, it counts. The first time I saw, actually both Sid and Archana, I saw you doing some duos at the duo night. Archana, you signed up, I think, a whole bunch of your classmates, if I remember right. It was a long time ago though, or it felt like a long time ago. Can you tell me about that?
I think I got into improv again. I started classes at UP. This was just I think about 2 years ago. So it's not been that long. So I took my first class roughly 2 years ago, and I had come to UP a few times and watched a bunch of theater sports shows, and I was like, these guys are amazing. How do they do this? I would never be able to do this. I had like the starry eyes. I remember like seeing, I think one of the first shows I saw, I think I saw Billsy on stage, and I was like,
oh yeah, Michael Billsy, yep.
It was just contagious. I was in awe of the entire show. And then I at the end of the show, how you have like information about the classes that you'll have. So I was like, let's try it. I wouldn't know anyone there, so let's go see what this is about. And I thought it was just going to be 100, but then like Amit said, it's 2 years and I'm still here and I'm still doing classes and jams, and it's just been amazing. And I think it was roughly when we were in 200, my teacher was Jackie, and she had mentioned something about something called the open mic night duos. And Eric and I, who also is frequent at duos, and we were like, maybe we should go try this thing out. And then we just signed up for duos, and we told Jackie that we signed up for duos, and she's like, you signed up for duos when you did 200? Like, are you sure? And it was the first few times were a train wreck. Like I remember having like a lot of those scenes where, when you're on stage and the audience wants you to get off the stage and you're just like powering through the scene. So we had a bunch of those, but then we came back and it was super fun, and it's been awesome.
Oh yeah, I remember your class too. You had a great class, Eric and Gretchen and Charlie, I think. I only subbed for you once, I think, a long time ago. But it was
that was such
a memorable class.
Is that why you and Gretchen are such great friends? Because I met you about 2 years ago, but that was only when you were in the hip hop class. So how many classes did you take in when you joined the improvised like hip hop session?
A few. I think doing improvised hip hop, we were also doing 300 or something at that point.
What?
Something like
You're
that.
a 300 level student when you were taking that class?
Specifics, but like something around those. Yeah, we were like definitely still doing our classes at that point.
Man, I was wondering where you came from. I was like, yo, she's dope.
Good
Got
time.
some of the heat.
And Sid, you were in. I mean, I remember you from way back. The first group I remember was Yesterday's Cake. But what's your kind of journey, I guess?
Well, I didn't know what. So I came to the U.S. when I was 17 in 2009. So when Adam went to India, I had to come here.
Switched.
But I didn't know about improv until I moved to Seattle in 2016, and I was looking for like stand-up classes. And for some reason, the internet was like unexpected productions, improv, and just show up, you know. And I was like, well, that sounds right up my lazy ass's alley. So you know, I started doing 100, and yeah, pretty much got hooked ever since. Went to 200, which was with Brandon Felker, which is where I met all my Yesterday's Cake folk that you mentioned, which was like my first improv group. And he was like, he basically said that, you know, if you want to get better, just get some like stage time. And he mentioned duos. And then, so I started doing duos from 200, which is like the second level class at Unexpected Productions. It was, as soon as I came to duos, I was like, well, I can literally ask anyone to do a scene with me, all like my improv crushes from watching theater sports and stuff. And everyone's like so cool and willing to help and stuff. And it was just a good time too. So that's like, after I started coming to duos, it became a ritual literally for a lot of us. Wednesday night is duos, so you just do it every week. And I just that became improv became a huge part of my life that way.
Heck yeah, duos is where we first met up, Sid. It started kicking it.
Yeah, that's right.
I've loved it ever since.
I think I met Archana on stage.
We did.
Duos.
Yeah, it was an infiltration night, and I was doing a scene with Eric, and then Adam had to infiltrate Eric in my scene, and he came on stage I think we were doing Half-Life or something, and he infiltrated our scene. And then after that, I was just like, oh, thanks for doing that with us. And we were talking, and he's like, where are you from? And then we found out that he spent so much time in Bombay, and he knows a lot of people that I do, and it's just a small world. And we met on
Normally
stage.
I hate Half-Life, but I had a really fun time in that game. I remember with you guys.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And then you got together as a group. Let's Chat. And I believe your first official show was the Palace Theater down in Georgetown together.
Okay.
I think so.
Yeah.
The Palace?
That sounds right.
They're at the big Palace. Yeah. They're at the Palace. Yeah.
How was that for an introduction to like, hey guys, an introduction to the world?
It was great. I think Jay was talking to the three of us, and he's like, y'all should do a show together. We have the international festival on. Maybe you all should form a group together and do something. And then we were like, you know what, we should. That's a great idea. And so thanks, Jay, for actually getting us to get off our asses.
Yeah, and all of that came from duos too, because I remember like two duos specifically, but like one duo, me and Amit did a duo, and I think we were like, the scene was about being in line in Disneyland. It was just the two of us, and like I called him Rishi. I called him like by an Indian name, and we both had like Indian names, and like I was like, wow, I have not experienced this ever before in my life. Because we were always Joe or Charlie or whatever.
I think.
Yeah, go ahead, Amit.
No, I think like that was like one of those moments where we both suddenly had that click, or like we all like we had that click of like, oh, this is where we can continue playing with this, and we didn't even have to try anything. It was just turning into a series of like whatever mistakes we would make for things back in India, how we would communicate with each other, like just the body language, the words, whatever, it like anything and everything, it just started coming in that spot. So I think that was like one of those moments where it happened. We're like, oh, okay, this could be fun if we continue playing with this format.
Yeah.
Um,
And I had me and Archana had a duo, where we were like, you know what? Yeah, let's try this format of just let's talking about our the world from our lens, and then doing improv with it. And that was like, I was like, wow, this is like the injection of authenticity that I personally had never had that before on stage. So we were like, that's cool.
Yeah. For me,
it must have felt a lot like how when we stepped on stage together for the first time, James was like, other Black people. It was great.
Yeah, well, I know Issiah mentioned that last week or a couple weeks ago. Is if you have a culture that's kind of your weapon. You use it. And I remember some of your duos and shows where you would bring up things, and sometimes you would, in the beginning, I remember Sid doing this. You would explain something out of the culture of India, and then you would go and do the scene. But people are now more invested because you already explained what it was, and it was fun to watch and a learning experience.
I like to learn.
Yep.
Yeah. I feel like Jay's been responsible for like most of my groups that have been formed. I think Jay has somehow been responsible for it. I think when I was in Stock Image, I think Jay had stopped by in front of us and were like, oh, you guys should do something together. And we were all standing in a circle, and we were like, I guess we should. And Jay's like, would you like me to take a picture of you on stage? So he took a picture of us on stage. So that happened. It started was the same thing.
Yeah. So for the rest, for the world of, for the 13 people watching on Twitch, the stock image, I love the name. You guys name that, but it was Amit, and it was Keeson Holt, who's Black. And then you had Christine, who's Asian.
Yep.
And then
Kayla.
Kayla, yeah, that's right. Yeah. And so it did look like a stock image. Those are your perfect. Every race, it was like Star Trek kind of. And about that, and have you noticed it's freeing for you to have you noticed anything dealing with race? Like, have you been I don't know.
He's so polite. So you've worked with a lot of white folks on stage. We all have. How is it different working with people that look like you, have similar experiences to you? Like, sure, people might see us on stage together. They're like, oh yeah, they're brown. It probably works, but it's different. So what is it like, the three of you being three of our premier Indian members of Unexpected coming through consistently? What's that feeling like, not being an Indian person on stage, but being a person on stage when it's the three of you?
You know me too well.
I got you, bro. You're way too kind. He's all PC. I'm not PC.
One of the things for me was when I'm always very conscious of my accent, because I feel like I talk too fast and I don't enunciate my words enough. But that's never been an issue for me back in India, because most people around me speak like that, and they usually understand what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. So when I'm on stage with a non-Indian person, I usually have to put more effort. I'm thinking consciously about how I'm saying things. Mm-hmm. Whereas it might not be something that I have to do, but it's just something that I feel like I have to do. Mm-hmm. Whereas when I'm doing it with someone who I know kind of understands my accent, it just flows a lot more freely, the words. It's less in my head, and it's more I feel more comfortable talking just because I know that the other person's, it comes back to the whole thing of I trust that they have my back because they know what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. And I guess that just comes with kind of the I've grown up talking to people who have the same accent as me and I'm familiar with, so I just feel more comfortable on stage talking to them, if that makes sense.
Do you get a lot of people telling you they don't understand what you say when you're on stage with them? They're like, what was that? Huh?
It happens, and yes, it does happen quite often there, because I understand why, because my accent's not the clearest. Right now I'm making an effort to enunciate my words, because otherwise it'll just I'll keep.
Sounds good.
But it is an active effort that I personally make. And now it's becoming a lot more natural because I've been in the US for what, 4, 5 years, 6 years now.
Wait, you mean 3 years ago or 2 years ago when you started doing improv, you had only been in the US for 2 to 3 years?
4 years. Now I'm at 6. Yeah. Now
Wow. That's impressive. I remember teaching the class with Tiffany, and we're being like, yo, this is crazy how good she is at this hip hop stuff. Cause like you're translating it into a language that's not your first, and you're still hitting these bars. It was like dope. Like you and Sid, you guys have both like got a very particular technique that has been born from like your Indian culture and your love of hip hop. And it is so dope when I hear y'all rap. I haven't gotten Ahmed on the mic yet, but I'm gonna keep trying.
Yeah.
I'm down. Yeah.
I remember, like the accent thing is like an interesting thing because like my accent is it's pretty much American now when I talk to American people, and then when I talk to Indian friends, I have this ability now to kind of like start switching, and I start talking like this, and this is like, but like I remember like I did this in college. I went to college in Kansas, y'all. KU.
Hey, KU.
A lot of white people there.
Are there?
Yeah, friends. A lot of them my dear friends. But like I lived in a dorm there, which was like there were a lot of American people there. So everyone was talking that way, and I remember literally having that switch in my head turn freshman year because I was like, I have to go on a date with this Canadian girl, and I don't want to like say something and then think something and translate it and say it. So I was like, I'm gonna start like talking like them, and now I have an identity complex, guys.
Oh, I had a question.
It's called code switching. And for those people watching at home, those 12 of you, a lot of minorities in this country have to adapt an entire different language just so that they can convey what happens in their brain space to white people. Every minority across the country has some way of code switching. For me, it might be from switching back from being like talking in my regular voice to be like, hey, how you doing, Miss Marco? How you doing over there? It's a privilege to have you out here today. Just making sure you add the ing to every word that you're saying. That's for y'all.
Yep.
The more you know.
Hey, I hate to interrupt. I'm gonna have to head out. I gotta take care of some work. So I'll it was good hearing you guys. I'm sorry to interrupt right in the middle.
Oh no, I was going to ask you a question.
One question before you go. One more.
Oh yeah, well the question I was actually going to ask you, Adam, or that I was going to mention to you, one of the things that you did that was fantastic, and people still talk about it, and you probably don't even know they talk about it, is one time we did a scene, an experience scene, and you had to play a man from India, and you not only did because you lived there for so long, you put on the accent and the like the culture, you brought everything in, but it was nice because you honored it versus maybe somebody who was trying to do it could deem it as appropriate. Well,
from my recollection, it wasn't about me necessarily doing an accent. I think it was more about
you were just being,
it was a scene where we got an audience member on stage, and they were talking about something that's very universal, which was about getting married. And there's a lot of things that weddings are, popular thing. And I had played a lot of shows that in India where wedding was a big topic. So I knew all of the basic things that happen in a wedding. And because we were able to hit all those beats of the things that are classic in the wedding, the person found it really enjoyable. So it was just about more of having a knowledge of that culture and being able to reference that culture and have those moments that the person connected to, versus necessarily playing, doing an accent as much.
Yeah, I would like to say, like, I don't know if we were talking about the same scene, Jay, but it was also important that Adam you didn't do everything Indian. Like it was like it was being in the character, like in the scene. So it's not like, oh, like just bludgeoning all the Indian stereotypes in that scene because you were playing an Indian person. And I think that's why the audience member also appreciated it.
Yeah, I was just playing it real and honest.
Yeah, and I had done that same scene so many times in India where I knew what we played that exact same game, and it's all, and wedding is always a very popular topic.
Yeah, okay, yeah, because there's so much that comes up where the average white person would probably stay away from that.
And I think it's because what they would do there is the average white person would do like a caricature of an Indian person that they've seen in like Hollywood,
right?
Like just whatever they see. They're like, oh yeah, like the dude from The Simpsons or whatever, like super stereotypical thing. They're like, oh yeah, Haji, like no. Like there's a right way and a wrong way to do this. And the right way is to have appreciation for the culture that you're trying to represent believably. Because again, acting is living believably imagined circumstances. And you got it.
Yeah. I think I've seen Adam do that scene or something similar otherwise as well. And I think the key part is he's not trying to be an Indian person. He's not trying to be Indian by race. He's trying to embrace the persona of an Indian person while still being himself. So I think that's what is important. You're trying to in
the culture. I think a lot of the culture and the tradition. And
you're embracing the background. It's like it's the character game, right? So you're not trying to be the character by hitting all the same jokes about it and be stereotypical and be shallow about it. You're just thinking about it. If I'm this person coming from here and I am who I am, what does that mean? And I think that's what's important. I think a lot of people forget that, or they go the route that Ray mentioned. So they just start hitting the stereotypical jokes.
Yeah, and I remember I went one time. I was in Amsterdam and came with the Indian group, and it was just weird, like how a lot of groups felt like they had to portray their, like the Dutch people all felt like they had to make jokes about marijuana. You know what I mean? And then French all had to talk about having baguettes, and it was just it was weird because I don't know, like what people feel like that there's a very surface level that we have to look at each other. But there's, you know, like when I go and perform in Bombay, I'm like having to read so much and watch a lot of TV and just stay up on what's current events and who's doing what and where. And I think it's that really of embracing that and then trying to play that to your utmost intelligence and not just doing a disservice to that, I guess.
That is great advice. Very good advice.
Something neat out here.
Yep.
So anyways, I have got to go. I apologize. It's been very hectic for me. So I'll see you guys.
Yeah, good luck with everything too.
Thank you so much for letting me be part of this.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye. He's like, how do I turn this off? How do I get out of here? The awkward. Goodbye.
Bye. Click, click, clickety, click, click, click. Oh, there it is.
Yeah. Well, I was wondering, are there any questions out there? Actually, I'll just say this now, and then maybe some questions will come up. But if there's anybody out there who has been watching live streaming, if you have any questions, go ahead and type them in. And somebody, Tony, Jason is here. Somebody is going to tell us what the questions are. We don't have Twitch or Facebook going here. So
I mean, I could do it on my phone, but battery.
Right. You have Twitch on now? Okay. And Jason DeLeo's helping us there. He's going to be asking us questions, I guess, or asking you questions. And anyway, but what I guess my question is now, what are some things that you hope to accomplish now? Maybe as I see that you're going to be playing tomorrow. You're going to be playing with the Thursday night crew, Improv Anonymous. Yeah, they're playing tomorrow. Yeah.
Oh, that's dope. Was chat coming to the live?
Yeah, this is a big promotion for everybody. Tune in tomorrow to see these guys. So Tony asked you. Tony's in the tech room right now. He asked you guys to play, and what do you think of that? I don't know what the question is.
Yeah, you guys are getting an opportunity to perform for the first time in 3 months, and you're going to do it with each other, your squad that's already been instilled. How do you feel?
I don't know if I can improvise still.
I feel the same way, bro. Did I lose it? Did I just forget how to be in the moment?
Yeah, so we'll see how that goes. But I mean, kind of like, I guess we'll all just try to be the improvisers that we are, that comes from being us, you know. And that was one of the things that when we started doing Let's Chat, at least for me, that it helped us like work on that authenticity as an improviser more. Like, at least I know for me, it helped me in all kinds of improv to be like more comfortable on stage. And like just the improv is so it's so interesting because we play characters, but we're also us as human beings, writing and directing and having our own vision in what we're doing. So it's like a cool amalgam of that. So we'll do that at Wildcard. So tune in, you know.
Yeah. Oh, well, so we have a question. Jason's going to read it. Just read it out loud. If you can't hear it, let me know. I think you should be able to hear it though.
Thank you to live the question. Their question is: have you ever seen a white Americans play South Asian? And if so, what did they get wrong, or what did they get right?
Oh, we were just talking about that with Adam. He's the one to do it right. Everyone else quit.
Yeah. Yeah. So what do you think? Have other people other than Adam tried to play, and maybe what did they get wrong? What did they get right? What is your advice for them to get it right next time? Which you kind of gave it at one point, but
I actually have not seen as many people try South Asian characters. Like, you see a lot of different genres, like within like American culture, and you see a lot of different, like, you know, the Southern accent, or you see some European accents too. But I personally have not seen that many South Asian improvised characters. I don't know about the other two. And I actually, now that question is asked, I wonder why. Because like, there's a lot of us out there.
Yeah. Well, do you wonder if maybe non-South Asians wouldn't play that with you around? Or, you know?
Well, I also think, like, unless it's like specifically asked in an improv scene, nobody chooses to be South Asian, you know, like,
Yeah.
And it doesn't come up that often from the audience unless it's our people just having a good time after a birthday party, getting drunk. But like, I think I've seen it a couple of times, and like we said, like Adam, like the one time I saw it, I was like, yeah, that's fine. And like I related to something that he did, which is kind of the goal, which is what made me feel good. But like, I would just say, like, don't go around like you're dancing around trees and stuff, or just like any kind of stay away from like any kind of stereotype. Just be like, if you're a human, if you're playing an Indian character and you're white, first do it very carefully, and with great power comes great responsibility. But if you are, be a human being, be a dad that's talking to his son who lives in Mumbai, you know, like be that. Don't be an
7-Eleven
person, you know.
Yeah, don't hit this low-hanging fruit. People do that all the time, and it makes me so mad. They do it with me, do it with you. Sure, you guys out there have seen it too.
Well, you know, we do have another question coming out here, but I do want you to know that we are in the COVID time, and it may look like we're really close, but
I'm
actually
6 feet behind him.
Yeah, and he's super tall. I'm really little, so I'm just. But Tony Beeman has a question, and he's actually is putting a mask on here.
Hello.
Oh.
I feel like a G.I. Joe character. I'm gonna take my mask on.
Yeah, take it off.
My question is this: we obviously worry a lot about cultural appropriation and misappropriation, and you know, the Seattle area has a huge Indian audience, who often comes to our shows. and they will often give us Bollywood as a suggestion. And my impression is they actually really like laughing at white people poorly attempting to do Bollywood. But we also worry about misappropriation, or like, and we talk a lot about like, well, what's the right way for us to do it? Should we do it? And you know, everyone's got a different opinion. So, but what are your thoughts about stuff like that?
Yeah, I think in general, Sid and Archana will probably agree to this. In general, Indian people are pretty thick-skinned about all these things, and they'll generally just laugh. If something's funny and not super offensive, we'll laugh. We don't care about it as much. So if there is some of that coming into play, I think to the question, yeah, I think when they're giving Bollywood, they want to see performers struggle with it in some ways, or like some of that. So that's fine, flirting with some idea of those jokes, as long as you don't take it down some really offensive routes is the real point, right? So I think you can, I mean, we all joke about some parts about our culture. We all joke about our food being spicy. That's like it's, you can joke about the food being spicy, but if you start to turn it into, oh, this is smelling so bad and I smell so bad because of the food, then it's bad. So it's like finding that kind of a balance is kind of important, of like, oh, this is pungent versus, oh, this is spicy. So I think that's how I think about it is, you can flirt with the idea, you can gauge where the audience is. Generally, a big challenge is in terms of minorities. Different minorities have had different experiences with white people, so we don't have the same experiences. I know it's kind of a shocker, Dre. It's crazy. So I think we just have to understand that. Like, I think if you're comfortable with some of those jokes, you can crack that, but maybe don't go too far back in India's history and talk about the British rule and all the killings from coming out of that. Maybe that's too much. So maybe don't go to the colonization part of life a little bit. I mean, so like any variation of those things is fine. I'm just, yeah, it's trying to identify where to draw the line. And yeah, a couple of stereotypical jokes, fine. I mean, it's low-hanging fruit, avoid, but if you end up doing that, that's not like a full faux pas, and people are not going to get fully enraged against it. It's just be careful and just don't start going a route that seems more offensive.
Also, I would say, like, what do you, when someone gives you a suggestion that you don't know that much about, what do you usually do? You ask it's like, one of the thing is you ask the audience, like, so if someone gives you Bollywood, you ask the audience, like, what is it about Bollywood that you like? Or like, what are some things about Bollywood that you enjoy?
The musicals.
Yeah, and that way you relate to the person who you're doing the scene for. Well, you're doing it for everyone, but like whoever is giving you the suggestion, and then like it will kind of also inform you in terms of like what to do.
Great.
So, I got a question.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Oh, there was another.
Another one.
Yeah, there's an online one.
Quick this thing.
We'll give it to the people that can't just ask you in real life. That's cool.
I do want to answer real quick to what Sid was saying. Is I think the best thing, if you are trying to find the easiest way, or if you're not getting more details, the easiest thing you can do is be yourself as a clueless person in that world, and then things will fall into place. Like, I don't know, I cannot do a Southern accent to save my life. I cannot do a British accent to save my life. So I generally just go with my accent in the South and just show up as a clueless person who's there. And the best thing you can do. So you're playing the proponent and the low status person in the scene. So if no one's going to take offense to if you bumble around through the scene. People agree with you not being someone coming in and trying to be offensive.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's on me.
And there's a who's this one from the Twitch?
This one is from J and J Farguts.
J and J Farguts.
Yes, and they are asking, is there anything about your culture that makes it easier or harder to be an improviser?
Did you get that? Anything about your culture that makes it easier or harder to be an improviser?
I don't know about Sid and Amit, but like, I feel like growing up with Indian parents has given me so much material, like enough material for a lifetime of just being inspired. There's just so many things that they do, which a lot, like, you just think of it sometimes and you're like, that's such a good scene. Like, I want to do that on stage. And it's just because like Indian parents are really, really in like the lives are really in, entwined with their children's lives. So they're very involved. And like growing up, I don't know how it was for Suriname, but like our parents were someone that we saw all the time, and they were involved with like everything that we did. And they have a very specific way of like doing things and talking to us, and like, there's a lot of stereotypes around Indian parents that are actually very true. So for me, like, I find a lot of inspiration in that. Like, that's interesting.
Which makes our improv easier and harder, because man, we have done so many parental scenes, y'all. Like when like we have, it's we've literally had conversations before shows of Let's Chat, and we're like, okay, like no parents this time. Okay? no, we'll play something else. But yeah,
it's hard to not have parents in there.
It's also the harder part of the show for us sometimes, is if I see some Indian people in the audience who could look like the age of parents, then I'm like really scared, because then I'm reminded of my family and everyone else. So like I'm suddenly like, you suddenly go to attention mode, and you're like, I better not say something that's bad. I better not make an accent that's like stupid, or say something. So you suddenly like freak out about it. Like, oh, I can't say something that'll piss them off.
Yeah, because Auntie will point it out the next time.
Auntie will definitely point it out.
Oh man!
And I heard, is it true that they won't just like tell you about it, but they'll tell like your whole community,
Oh, yeah.
like, your parents, your cousins. They'll tell like, I don't know, random people at the grocery.
No secret is a secret.
and you had a question for us.
Oh yeah, so like I know things that are really indicative to Black culture that's going on in America. You can't tell a yo mama joke without that being traced back to some Black guy somewhere. Like we coined it. What's something that y'all got that you're like, yo, this is like indicative to?
First, do a couple of yo mama jokes.
Oh yeah. Yo mama's so black she look like oil. Like, yo mama's so old she took her driving test on a dinosaur. Like, yo mama teeth is so janky that she look like she throwing up gang signs every time she open her mouth with say. I can go on there.
That's the next duo. Dre, just do yo mama jokes.
Just yo mamas.
Well, one thing that came first of all, let me just say, all the music that makes you groove, funk, jazz, like everything that has rhythm, blues, rock and roll, comes from Black culture in America, and like so much comedy and so much of just culture in general. So everyone should respect that whenever they're doing it.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you. And the one thing that came to me was like, with that doesn't, I wouldn't say irk me, but like I've always found it interesting with yoga, which is like people, like yoga is such a big thing here. And like if you're like, I've had interactions with like yoga instructors where like there's a lot of like, oh, I know so much and I'm such a like spiritual leader and stuff like that. And it's always an interesting experience, because I'm like, we did ours. Like it came from, like, what's happened? Why am I you and you're? I don't know.
Yeah, there's a lot of there's people recently I've been hearing this, that yoga is related to the devil. Have you heard that?
What?
No, I know, isn't that silly? I know it's ridiculous, but I know if you heard that, and I don't believe.
I mean,
it.
I will say that India is a really big country with a lot of people, but that one I haven't heard from.
Oh, okay.
Of course, yoga started in India, and it's something that's like, like it's a big part of our culture there, and it's, come to America, and like Americans have done a really good job at marketing it. Like, I think that's the difference, is like they've kind of, like productized it really well, and they do such good, they make it like all the benefits that they talk about, right? Like, it is true, like that is the things that it's done, but I think Indians didn't do a good job with that as much, and as much as like Americans have kind of taken it and made it so mainstream, and like everyone knows about it now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you saying this culture is based on capitalism? Is that what you were? What? Sorry.
What? They capitalized on your culture in America?
No, I think Indians in general have been like, I feel like culturally we've never really tried to push too many things globally or try to show that this is us. Look at this. Like, the biggest things that come to mind for people when they think about the word India are like, one is yoga, which is now heavily commercialized in the US, and the first thing that comes to people's mind is not India, it's Lululemon. The other thing is like chicken tikka masala, which was like what the Brits made from the original chicken tikka, which they could not deal with the spiciness, so they had to tone it down and make it their own version of it. So it's actually, they say, I think unofficially, I think it's the national dish for the UK is, I think, chicken tikka masala. Same thing with like IPA, like India Pale Ale. They added hops to pale ales because they didn't want them to go skunky in the hot weather in India. None of these things, like that's the funny thing. It was like most of these things coming out of related to India, we're like, either it's basically been made more famous from other cultures or other nations who are like either capitalizing or colonizing. Pick one of the C's.
Wow.
I
thought IPAs were like low-key racist because I was like, they're Native Americans. But you're telling me like it actually came from the idea started in India. Okay.
Yeah, they had to. Yeah, the Brits needed their beers to not go skunky, so they started adding more hops to it. I think to make it make them last longer. The one that does bother me the most, which is just for everyone in general, I think I've always ranted about this to anyone who I see. It's not chai tea latte. That is basically tea latte. It's tea. So please don't say chai tea latte. Just say tea. Either say chai or just say chai latte, or go and say tea latte if you feel good about that. Just don't say chai tea latte. It's like tea latte, and it sounds ridiculous.
Tea latte.
Don't feel good about that. Don't call it a tea latte. Call it a chai latte. What it is.
Redundant. Yeah.
All right, guys, we got time for one more question.
We have a question.
One more.
From the chat room,
from the Twitch stream.
It kind of works well with what you guys are talking about right now. What are you proudest of with your culture compared to white America, and what are you most ashamed of?
Ooh, proudest of and most ashamed of.
Wait, so proudest and ashamed of our culture, right?
Yes.
Is the question?
Comparing it with white America.
Well, I'm not going to compare it with white America, but I will tell you, I will tell you what came to my mind. It's something that kind of Amit hinted at is we like well, first of all, I will say India has a lot of diverse kind of cultures. So there's a lot of different kind of people from India. But we like there is like culture traditionally there is lesser focus on like materialism and money and more focus on people because there is like a lot of us, which I kind of I imbibe that within me, and it is something that inspires me. In terms of something that I'm ashamed, again, not talking about like any like all Indian people, but I come from a like a higher caste family in India, and like that is my privilege. So like I'm a Brahmin, and that's part of my privilege. And there is like a lot of people who don't have that privilege and are oppressed. And that's something I'm ashamed of. And I think we should all kind of like work on identifying what privilege we have and what we can do for bolstering the voice of the people who don't have that privilege.
Ooh.
Yeah, kind of piggybacking on that, something which which I don't like a lot is that there's a lot of things which, you know, our parents or people older than us say, which are kind of ingrained in us now, which we don't actually realize are things which are not okay for them to say. Like, for example, I'm not like specifically talking about my parents, I'm talking about like society is a huge deal in India. Like, what are other people going to say is the first question that most parents ask. Like, when you think about, am I going to do this? The first question, instead of being, what will my parents say? It's going to be, what are other people going to tell my parents about me? And like, parents really, really get affected by that. And like, what society says is just such a big deal. And it's, again, it comes back to the fact that everyone knows everything about everyone's lives. So like news goes through like really, really fast. Like, for example, I'm with someone who is an Indian, and I remember when like I first wanted to, who would have thought? And when I first wanted to tell, I was terrified about telling my parents because I knew they would be okay with it, but they would be, in my head, I was like, they're not going to be okay telling other people about it because other people are going to say things like, oh, she moved to the US and now she's with a white man and she's leaving her country, right? And my parents get affected by what people around them say. And, you know, the news will just keep going on passing. And then eventually someone will say that, oh, she ran away. And like, you know, it's just, there's too much of that, like society talking about people and judging people and like the whole, what will auntie say? And that gets very stressful just because you have, like, it's enough, you have enough pressure on yourself and stress on yourself thinking about something, having to worry about what 100 other people will say because it's going to affect your parents, because that's just how it is. Like, they are a part of the society, and that can get a bit stressful. So even if, you know, like I have opinions on how, you know, there's systemic racism here and it's not okay, and I want to voice opinions on that, but then it'll, you know, if you post things like this on Facebook, then aunties and uncles will be like, oh, why are you doing these protests in America? Like, that's not what you were sent there for. And, you know, just people start voicing opinions like that, and that makes your parents angry, and then your parents are going to be like, why are you doing this? So
yeah
to me, but I think that's a lot of reason why that's a reason why I know a lot of people are not speaking up, because they're afraid of the repercussions that their parents are going to have, and they don't want to do that.
True. I mean, there are it's always a double-edged sword, like with both things like that we're talking about for India. Like, I think I think both Sid and Archana hit the point is, we are very people oriented. We care about people. We take care of our people. Like, if any of you, if we're traveling to India tomorrow, we can guarantee you'll have a place to stay wherever you need to go, wherever you're going. You'll find, like, everyone knows a guy who knows a guy who knows someone, and you don't need to figure out. You'll get there. You'll find someone. It's something or the other will happen, and it'll be available. So like, that's the go-to approach, and that's awesome. And you don't get to see much of that over here. So that's why for us, especially being all these like thousands of miles away from home, our friends are our family. So we don't even think about it twice. Like, whatever people need, we do it. We're like, cool. That's just how our brain is wired. We don't do it because we're trying to show we can. It's just what our immediate reaction is. The other thing also, like the positive side of it is, like, Indians are, I want to say, for the most part, from what I've always seen is like, at least people around me, and Sid and Archana can say if they have different experiences, people are constantly they're really enterprising. They're really constantly trying to do things in the positive way, what they can do to up and improve their life, their situation, whatever it might be. So they're never like giving up on stuff. They're not being like, well, that's it, it's all over, I can't really, like, there's never stopping. Like, there's like a constant movement. There's no like settling. There's a constant movement. So it's kind of interesting to see that culturally. But both of them have the negative side of it. Like, the enterprising side has this aspect of it, saying that you're not sent to the country to do this, so why are you wasting your time on other things? You should be focusing on what you were there for. And on the people side, it's the same problem. Is everyone's in everyone's business, so that becomes a big problem. That, along with, I think the big part that we talked about, the systemic racism here. We have our own problems of systemic classism and casteism. I think what Sid was talking about, there are like four roughly groups that we have. There's like the priest level, there's like the merchant level, there's like the fighter level, and then there's like the legitimately called the untouchables. Like they're, because they were not supposed to, they were below the poverty line, they were just outcast away from the town. So like we have our own problem, and we have our own challenges with religion and classism being heavily integrated in our politics. At least in the US, people try to say the state and church are separate, but we don't even care about it. For us, state and temple is the same thing. It's not anything different. So that's like a big problem that we ourselves struggle with.
In our constitution, it's supposed to be different, but right now we have a religious nationalistic party in the helm. So
is that a new thing? That's a new.
Unfortunately, not that new.
Oh.
It turned into more and more and more, and got a little more radical in some ways. So when it started off, when they first came into office, it was still not as like extreme, but it got more extreme in the last few years. It's just gotten way more extreme. So so we have our own version of challenges around that. So that's like a big part of it.
But a lot of things which have happened like in the past few months, like against Muslims, and kind of marginalizing them and doing things which are making it harder for them to live in the country and things like that. And there's a lot of things happening around that as well. But I think like one big difference, at least I personally have noticed, is people in America, politics is so tied into daily life. Like it's media, it's social media, it's the TV you watch, it's like people talk about it at work. Like it's all the time, that's what's happening. Whereas in India, I don't know if it's for me, the people I was around, but like when something big happens, you'll hear about it. But in general, politics isn't something that people talk about as much day to day. So you like kind of know what's happening, but it's not something you're actively paying attention to all the time.
I think it might differ family to family on that, but like Amit said, like there's a lot going on when you live in India, like with your family, with being enterprising, with trying to get better. Like, so there's a lot to just live, it's a lot.
And is there the media is open though, right? It's not like state run.
Well, it is open, but
it's never state run. We've never had. I mean, we have similar issues as we do over here, like certain biases one way or the other. But it's always been open. It's never been like just a state run. No one else can do anything.
Gotcha. Yeah.
India.
Wow.
Yeah.
I got something. I know we're about that on that time, and I could do this all day. I just want to hang out with y'all. I don't know. Like we just get all of the food I want now. I want some real tikka masala. Like it's okay, burn my tongue. I'll cry later, but that's my own journey I have to go on. And those tears will be my badges of approval. It means I did it. All right, I want to give something for these people that are sitting at home watching, and for myself. What's like a traditional like greeting or salutation? Like I might say "Que pasa" if I was talking to some Mexican homies. I might say "What's good" to my African American population. I might say "Good evening, sir" to a white person. Like
Hey, Tony in there.
Tony's like, "Yep, that's the one. Good evening and good day."
I think the cliched one, which everyone probably has heard the most, is namaste.
Oh, namaste.
Yeah, and
is that hello, goodbye? Is it both?
It's welcome. It is, but honestly, I don't think I've ever said namaste to any of my friends or family. Yeah, and I mean, it's really funny. Like whenever we have a yoga class, at the end of it, everyone's always like namaste. Like I haven't heard this for so many years. Like
welcome at the end of the session. Welcome.
It's kind of like Siddharth, I don't know if you can explain namaste better. Like yeah, it is.
It's namaste is just like a greeting. It's kind of like an acknowledgement,
Yeah.
Like like we usually use only for our elders. Usually in like today's You guys can like correct me. I'm literally doing it. I don't know why I'm. This is namaste. But I was gonna say like a couple of things, and again, like we have a million different languages and a million different ways to talk to each other. But where I'm from, like the first, like a lot of times the first thing that we say when we meet, I meet a friend is aur batao, which is like literally the first thing is tell me more. Like you haven't even started saying anything to me, but I'm like, tell me more. That's like the first thing you say.
That's definitely a regional thing, right? Because so first of all, I think namaste is like definitely more of a greeting. I think it's kind of similar to aloha. It can be hi or goodbye, or like it can be it's both or either, but it's still very formal, and I don't think almost most people I know do not really use it. It's really formal. So
that is very good to know.
Yeah, for us, like from where I come from, it's like the first line we start off is like kya hal chal, or like or kya kara, which is basically what's up or what's new or what's going on around you or what are you doing. Like it's straight up just coming and asking what are you doing. So it's like it's our version of what's up.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I have one final just to wrap.
Oh, you always get the final one.
No way. This is
Wait, are we gonna rap?
What's that?
I'm sorry, I'm losing some connection here.
All right. So my final thing, and maybe from each one of you, one maybe word of advice, word of wisdom in dealing with improv, like your philosophies on improvisational acting. If somebody's going, oh, what do they think? What's their view? What would you say? Other than yes and. We hear that all the time.
I guess like I would say in the theme of what we've been saying is try to be your. I mean, it sounds like very cliche, but try to like be yourself playing someone else. And then people are like, oh, that's literally what like acting is, or like what being on stage is. And I'm like, yeah, that's be who you are as a person, and playing something, but also like be who you are as a people on stage. So like you will be with your stage partner, or like with whoever is in the scene. You are individuals doing like something in community. So be that, and then play your scene, and go put your money in to GoFundMe Improv the World for TrIO.
Hey.
That's also my philosophy.
Yeah.
Hey, shout out to TrIO.
Killing it. Yeah. All right. Anything else?
Yeah, no, for me, it's kind of just listening to the people you're doing a scene with, because, sometimes they might be having a bad day or you might be having a bad day, but if you're kind of listening to where the other person's at, you can use that in your scene and kind of use that instead of thinking that that's something that's holding you back, like realizing that that's actually something which is adding to the scene. Because I think that's something I personally struggled with a lot, was like, I was like, I'm from this completely different culture. I don't get a lot of the references, but then like I'm slowly starting to get to the point where I think of that as a gift. And the fact that I don't know this is actually something that I can use in my scenes and use like to improvise. So just like listening to the other person and using that to build out your word.
Good advice.
Yeah, I think to me it's you have a very short period of time to sum up a whole long life relationship that you would have had with someone on stage. So just trying to put that kind of an energy when you're actually doing a scene with someone, like if someone's your friend, someone's your brother, like your brother is on stage for like 30 seconds or 2 minutes, but you have to think about it like you've been brothers for like your entire life. So how do you pull that energy into that moment and be that focused on that relationship, and just focus on that world and build up around that is what is important to me. So just fully being around the people and bringing that life into that moment.
Y'all are so wise.
Great.
Love
yes. Yeah, you're showing your age, Helmet.
I know. It's like yeah. It's like yeah.
There's a little bit of salt in that pepper beard.
Oh yeah. The salt is increasing every day.
I want to thank you for coming out here and talking, and also remember everybody out there, now the maybe 7 of you now that are left in the Twitch world. We'll be replaying this over and over again. So don't forget tomorrow night, 8:30 Pacific Standard Time in America.
North America.
Let's Chat will be performing with Improv Anonymous with Unexpected Productions right here on Zoom, on Twitch, on in the internet. And what's something? Any last words from you two?
Oh yeah, my last words for all of you people out there still watching, and every single person in this room, and all of the people that are on this screen. You're the blessed.
There you go. Well, thank you guys, and after this, we'll talk a little bit more. If you want to stick around for a few minutes, we'll do the paperwork. And anyway, thank you, Jason over here and Tony. Thank you guys for asking questions, monitoring the Twitch room, running the video out there. We have a full technology thing that I don't know if we really used it tonight as much as we normally do, but thank you all for supporting the Duo Improv Showcase as well. We'll see you when we'll invite you back here when we're able to all be here. Like there's already like 4 people in here right now anyway.
It's a party.
It's a party. But anyway, thank you. And next week, I believe we are replaying the LGBTQ bully show. And congratulations on things. Anyway, we'll talk about that later. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm really bad at ending it out. So.
Oh, speaking of bullies, you guys should check out D Smoke's new album. He has a second song on there called Bullies. It's phenomenal. It's talking about different layers of it. It's great. Y'all, you know where to catch us. You know what we do. We're Unexpected Productions. He's a member of the crew. And we're signing off. All right, Switch World. We'll see you next time. We're out of here.
Bye.